Hey everybody, I'm Jim T. Graham with RCGroups.com, and today we're looking at the new 3D FPV goggles from Skyzone. Alright, here it is with the hood popped. First you'll notice the goggles, and we'll take a look at these in depth and all the features in just a second. Then we have our video transmitter, and it's actually a dual video transmitter, ready for the two antennas. And then we have the dual video cams. Now the lenses inside are actually pretty nice, and the only real issue I have is that I wish the lenses were a little farther apart, a little more to match the distance between a human set of eyes, but this is probably done so it'll fit on a quad or something smaller. And then there's your input, and we'll show the wires in just a second, but you have a wire input to your camera that's coming off of your video transmitter, and then there's a power input right there as well. So then in the case you get all the other things you need. This is for controlling the unit from your receiver, and you can see there is a place to plug those servos wires into here. And then this is your plug that goes from your video transmitter to your camera. Your power cable, long. This is actually a way that you can power the video transmitter with a JST connector. And then here is your tracking plug, and another version of a tracking plug. Another servo controller if you wanted to control the cameras from your receiver on your plane. And then we have another tracker plug. Awesome. This actually is a mount for your dual camera. There is a hole right here, and you can mount this onto this little metal mount. Actually, it would be this way. It rotates and it swivels, and I actually did use this on my FPV crawler. And you get all the antennas that you can either throw away, or I actually do use these when I'm in the shop and I have my good antennas on something else. You always have to have your antenna on whatever it is you're powering up, or you'll smoke it. And then you have AV out, very useful, or AV in actually. I use these all the time. I also like to mark these because the plug here is usually different almost for everything that I have. I mean, if it's a DVR or a set of goggles or whatever, this plug is never the same. So what I do is I just label what these go to, and that way when they get thrown in the bag, you know what they are. So that's everything in the box. A little sticky piece here that's hanging in the back, that's for your mount, and that's it. That's what you get. Now let's take a look at the old and the new. Okay. These are my original Skyzone goggles. As you can see, I did a goggle mod to them. I'm going to leave that on while we look at the two. I'll just push things out of the way. One thing I liked about my goggle mod is it sort of protected your buttons, so you wouldn't accidentally change the channel. Every time I handed these to somebody, they would change the channel on me, which was terrible. The new versions are slightly more indented into the frame, the buttons are, and they're slightly harder to push, and I'm sure that was an effort to keep people from changing parameters or changing channels accidentally. The other thing to take a look at is the forward-facing camera. You can see on the original it had a much bigger lens, and this is smaller. The original was weird. It was like everything looked 5 feet farther away than it was. And I almost knocked my whole DVR station down using these one day. Somebody grabbed me. And so the new camera actually is very realistic and usable. And this one, when you switched over, you were like, whoa. And with the new camera, I have yet to say whoa when I switched over. So you control the menu on the new one through the top pieces, and it's pretty intuitive. You push this button, the track button, to get to the menu. Just hold it down, and then let's see, I'm doing this from memory here. You should be able to scroll using these two buttons, and then when you're, let's say that you changed brightness or something like that, you can push the photo button, and that sets it in and pops you back out of the menu. So all that's controlled up here. You'll see it when you're in the goggles. And then if we look at the bottom, there are a lot of changes to the bottom versus the old. So on the left side, it's the same. You have your tracking out. Your IPD adjustments are the same. And over here, on the old ones, you can see my goggles are slowly fading away on me. But AV out, AV in, ear out on the originals. But on these, you have some cool stuff. So you have your AV in and a USB, which I have not used the USB, and I don't think it came with USB cable. I didn't see one in there. But I'm sure that's for upgrading, possibly. AV out. And then right here is your SD card slot. So this has a built-in DVR. Man, I just wish everything had a built-in DVR. It's very handy. And the way you control that is you can set your on-screen display to stay on for 3 seconds, 6 seconds. I put it on max because I'm always wishing it was back. But if you have a SD card in, it will show you on the screen that your SD card's loaded. And you push a record button to start the SD recording, and you push a record button to stop it. And if you're in the middle of flying, even if you're recording, you can push your photo button and take a picture while you're in the air. Very handy. Don't get confused though and accidentally push the camera button, and that takes you from being in your craft to seeing out of the front. So there's a good comparison. These goggles are using Coben LCD screens, and once again, the glass inside or the lenses inside of these are pretty good. They're not bad. As far as 3D goes, I was a little concerned. Before I put them on my head, I thought, how big of a difference could it be? What if they're not, if they don't feel very three-dimensional to me? And I have to say, I was immediately, maybe the word shocked would be used, at how three-dimensional everything was. Now the concept here is pretty simple, and that is that you have a camera for each eye. So in the goggles, you have a screen for your right eye and a screen for your left eye, and you have a receiver for each. And the plane or quad or vehicle that you're transmitting from has two cameras that represent your eyeballs. And so the right camera is transmitting to your right eye, and the left camera is transmitting to your left eye. And these are spaced apart in a way that the vision, or the image that you're seeing, is almost the same as what you would see using your own eyes that are spaced apart and creating a three-dimensional view. And so that's how they work. It's a pretty simple concept, and they do work. You can actually see if there's a tree in front of you, you can feel it approaching you, get a good idea about how far away it is as compared to that tree over to the left that is farther away. So in that aspect, they totally work. One thing I also want to mention is when you're in the 3D and also when you're in the 2D mode, compared to my old goggles, I felt like the images were crisper, and it felt like there was more detail. One of the theories I have is that you're getting two separate images of the same thing. So I'm not sure if you're actually seeing a better image in the goggles, or if getting those two inputs into your brain combined together to make what you perceive as a crisper image. It doesn't matter either way, because you're getting a crisper image, or at least you're perceiving it that way. So in that aspect, I'd say these are definitely better than my older goggles. I love that there's a DVR in this unit. And I like that the buttons are a little more difficult to accidentally press, which was an issue with my older goggles. There's a lot of topics to be brought up on these, especially when you jump out of the 3D aspect and into the 2D. These are the V2s, and I have not cracked the case open or anything like that to confirm that, but these are supposed to be V2s, and so a lot of the issues with the first versions of the 3D goggles are supposed to be fixed now with these, and hopefully they are. I've had these on a couple of different vehicles, and I will say that they, not only to me, you know, I can have my own feeling as to how the goggles operate, but what was really exciting was when I was able to put these on other people and say, okay, what do you think? And every time somebody put them on, at first they were shocked, and then they were blown away, and then they expressed it, how they thought that this was going to change FPV. So when you add a new dimension to your flying, I definitely could see how this is a game changer in the FPV world. So I'm anxious to get this on more craft. We just got these in. I took them to Seth with me, and so they were roaming around at Seth on my rock crawler. And we can talk about that a little bit as well in the second part of this video. So my question was, I know it comes with video cameras and dual video transmitters, but what if I tried to do my own dual video cameras? So what you see here is just a piece of plastic that I then mounted two Fat Shark video cameras onto, and then I mounted that onto a pan and tilt, and I wanted to see if I could make it run on my rock crawler. Now, I will say this, and my 12-year-old pointed this out to me. I tried to match them closely to the original units in distance, but you know, human eyes are farther apart than that, so I think that in the next iteration, I'm going to spread these out even farther. And the farther you spread them out, the more 3D you get. I'm sure there's a point of diminishing returns there where you get too far out and it's just too weird. But I am going to spread these out. And so I'm transmitting with two Fat Shark video transmitters back here. And they're on different channels. And they're running off a LiPo with a regulator on it, and then I'm monitoring everything with a battery checker. And the interesting news is that it worked. I couldn't believe it. I mean, there's no reason it shouldn't work. It just seemed too easy to me. And so you can go in the goggles and get in the menu, and you can go to custom, and you can pick what channel the left eye's seeing and what band, and pick what channel and band the right eye's seeing. And so I just matched that up with these two, and bam, I had a secondary unit, rock crawling, very cool. I have pictures of this. I also took it out and let people drive it. I thought this was an easy way to share 3D FPV with people. And this is a Wraith, in case you're wondering. So this is my experiment in getting the goggles to work with a whole different set of cameras and video transmitters, and it 100% worked. And to me, it made me feel like I had a robust set of goggles here that weren't just locked into the unit that it was shipped with. You can do it with anything. In conclusion, I'd like to say that the 3D FPV goggles from Skyzone really deliver on what they say they will. They give you a 3D perspective in your FPV world. Now, I have to say, for rock crawling FPV vehicles, they're pretty awesome. For airplanes in the sky, there's not that much to be three-dimensional about. But if you're a 250 size quad person who likes to rip around the brush and the woods and trees and courses, I think these goggles are for you. Now you may wonder, why have I not provided you an image of how these 3D goggles look or how the video looks? It's impossible for me to do that. You have to have an image going in one eye and the separate image going in the other to get the real perspective. So there's no way for me to represent what these look like. You either need to go out in the field and find a friend or someone that might have them that you can check them out with, or purchase your own and see what you think. I want to thank Fu for providing these for me. And speaking of Fu, if you decide you need to go jump out of 3D and use these as conventional goggles, you can do that. You can do it with the singular receiver. You can use diversity, and there's theories about the best way to do that. There is a thread on RCGroups.com where everybody's talking about this. I'll provide a link. Fu is in there giving updates and giving information, so there's that. I hope I've provided you with some good info on these and shed some light. I'm Jim T. Graham, and you've been watching RCGroups.com.